Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I've been informed that you have reached a verdict. If so, would your foreperson please rise? Have you in fact reached a verdict?
Yes.
Would you kindly hand the verdict form? Let me ask, is it signed?
Yes.
All right. And would you please give that to me? Thank you very much. You can be seated. Thank you very much. On the count of felony murder, count 1, guilty of felony murder as charged. On count 2, guilty of first-degree child abuse as charged, and consistent with the instructions that the jury was given, there are no other boxes that are marked. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I'm going to ask if all of you collectively would please listen carefully to me. I'm going to ask you to respond out loud collectively to my next question. Was this and is this your verdict?
Yes.
All right.
Model and influencer Abby Choi. Some of her remains found in a refrigerator and in a cooking pot inside a home in Hong Kong rented by her former father-in-law.
How about the head, okay? It's a skull, actually. It's no skin or any meat. So basically it's a skull with hair. As I said, unfortunately, there's a hole right side rear on the skull.
The social media star's Instagram showed a picture-perfect life to her more than 100,000 followers, including one posted just 2 days before she disappeared. Choi had financial disputes involving millions of Hong Kong dollars with her ex-husband Alex Kwong and his family before she disappeared. Kwong, his parents, and his brother arrested in connection to the grisly murder. Choi was a mother to 4 children ages 3 to 10, including 2 she shared with Kwong. Her loved ones now left grappling with the unimaginable.
The former yoga instructor convicted of murder, Caitlin Armstrong, receiving a hefty sentence after what was an emotional trial.
With Caitlin Armstrong escaped to another country. She tried changing her identity. She even attempted escaping from jail. But in the end, prison is where she's going to spend the rest of her life. She was sentenced to close to a century behind bars.
This court hereby sentences you.
This morning, former yoga teacher Caitlin Armstrong sentenced in a Texas courtroom to 90 years in prison for murdering professional cyclist Anna Mariah Mo Wilson, a woman she believed was romantically linked to her then-boyfriend, Colin Strickland.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Caitlin Armstrong, guilty.
In a trial that lasted for 3 weeks, state prosecutors painted a disturbing portrait of Armstrong, who shot Wilson in the head and chest in a jealous rage in May of 2022. The jury taking less than 3 hours to return their verdict.
You Owen?
I am Owen. There is... yeah.
Alright, step out.
I don't want to...
You have to a minute. Come out.
Would you... No,
Yeah,
do you
come
mind
out.
I have... Please
Yeah,
don't...
come out. I want you to come out.
Can you...
Yeah, come out.
Before restraining me...
I'm not going to restrain you, just come out a minute. Alright? Just stand here a minute. Right, what's happened?
She's done herself then...
Right.
Striking herself 3, 5...
Where is she at the minute?
I had to put her in my bed.
You had to what? Put her on the bed?
Yeah. She's my love.
Okay, put the phone down. At the moment, I don't know what's happened. Alright, so I'm arresting on suspicion
Oh,
of
please.
murder. Alright?
Alright, thank you very much.
Next to the car.
Oh.
I must caution you, don't have to say anything, but harm of defence, not mentioning questions, something which you may later on in court introduce to begin evidence.
A serial killer is defined as an individual who has committed at least 3 murders in a space of a few days to several years. A psychopath characterized by their excessive appetite for murder and the pleasure they extract from their actions. Their crimes make them feel all-powerful, to the point where they feel they'll never be caught. Gerard John Schaefer was a sheriff in Florida when he was denounced by 2 victims who had only just escaped from his grasp. He used his badge to gain trust from his prey. Condemned to life in prison in 1973 for the murder of 2 young women, he is initially considered responsible for the deaths of 32 other victims, before another 100 are cited. Gerard Schaefer was killed by another inmate in 1995.
Well, I was originally accused of killing 34 women, but nobody has ever managed to come up with 34 names, jurisdictions, or anything else. It's a false accusation.
And what is your conviction?
I was convicted of killing 2 in Fort Pierce. I was never shown to be at the crime scene. There was never any link between me and the people that were killed.
I'm not looking for anything. I don't I understand now a lot of stuff about myself that I didn't understand then, and it makes me realize what was going on. The senselessness of it appalls me, although I'm sure not as much as those who are so close to it.
It was the closest Bundy ever came to offering an apology.
But I think for the family, the important thing would be to find him.
Using Bundy's direction, searchers later found one small kneecap bone belonging to a young woman believed to be Debbie Kent. And despite a search near the Capitol Reef National Park, Nancy Wilcox's remains were never found.
It's late at night, and you're just making sure you're obeying the speed limit because you know that probably some cop in that town's going to try to make his quota with you.
On the map, he recalled passing through Scipio, Fillmore, Beaver, before pointing to the area near Capitol Reef National Park.
We need better maps. That would help. I mean, just a clearer picture of what it looks like.
Couch showed Bundy the pictures of Nancy Baird, Melissa Smith, and Laura Amy.
Just having a hard time placing the names and starting to get all mixed up. I don't remember a name. I don't know who it was. It could have been one of these.
Bundy had no recollection of encountering Smith or Amy, but he denied killing Baird. The interview with Bundy inside the Florida prison was now approaching an hour and a half. Couch knew Bundy was exhausted, but the detective also felt Bundy wanted to clear his conscience.
My mind is tied in knots right now. Everything together, and I'm having a hard time.
Couch still had 4 girls to cover: Melissa Smith, Laura Amy, Nancy Baird, and Nancy Wilcox, whom Bundy recalled snatching her near Holiday.
I don't remember exactly what she was wearing. She was wearing casual clothes.
Were you able to have any conversation with her?
Not really. Not much. I mean, nothing noteworthy. She was ushered into there and restrained and then placed in the car and taken to the apartment.
At what point would she have been killed?
The next day.
Couch said Bundy gazed at the map and remembered heading south with Wilcox's body.
For him, the sight of the blood and the separation of the tissues after the cutting gave him an intense feeling of satisfaction and enjoyment. That was the rush that he spoke about. And like heroin or cocaine, you need to have that every so often.
Every so often.
Yeah. Okay, were you able to get as big a rush killing one of these nameless people as you could from getting...
It did not matter. Blood is blood. It didn't matter man, woman, child.
No more thrill to kill the mayor of the town than the homeless guy on the street.
No. If I could have got George Bush to Tiny Tim, it wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
Today, I might say, you know, Tommy, Dr. Stone, he's okay. And tomorrow I might wake up and say, you know that bastard, he tried to slide a slip one in on me. You understand?
I do. That's why there's this glass. Tommy Lynn Sells, a serial murderer, killed as many as 70 victims as he traveled throughout the country. Men, women, and children, sometimes with a sexual angle, sometimes without, sometimes whole families, sometimes a mother and child. Quite a few times, it was a mother and a kid.
And I have an answer for that.
Okay.
And I thought hard about that because it's been like smacked up inside my head a time or two. I know what I went through as a child, the nightmares, the reality of who I was and what was done to me. I never wanted that to happen to another person.
Tommy Lynn Sells argues that he killed children to put them out of their misery after killing their mother.
I had something against that person. and there was another person there that witnessed it. I didn't want them to carry that on their shoulder the rest of their life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're putting them out of the misery they would have had if they had to live through all that.
That's the best I can answer it.
43-year-old Wesley Brownlee, who is a Stockton resident, is the suspect in these killings. He'll be arraigned in court on Tuesday. At the time of his arrest on Saturday at 2 a.m., Stockton police say that they found a gun in his car.
We watched his patterns and determined early this morning he was on a mission to kill.
The deadly shootings began in April last year in Oakland. Police say that the suspect shot and killed 39-year-old Juan Vasquez Serrano. And then 6 days later, the shooting of a homeless woman in Stockton. She survived. Then this summer, 5 more victims in Stockton, most of them Hispanic men, starting on July 8th with the killing of 35-year-old Paul Yaw to September 27th with the shooting death of Lawrence Lopez Sr.
Public records show addresses associated with Brownlee and his relatives are very close to the killings that police say are interconnected by ballistics.
You know, I sat up all night wondering what I was gonna say. I didn't write anything out, and it bothers me to, hear what I said that night in the lockup. I've never met a mean person in my whole life. And Mr. Sobel is right. The loss of a child is so hard to endure. I know how it feels, and I'm very sorry. I can't take back that day. I wish I could, but I can't. I handle my stress so differently than anybody else does, and I wish I could help myself. I really could. I asked for help several times, and I didn't get it. And as a mandated reporter, Carol saw me covered in bruises. Why didn't she mandate that? Why didn't she report that? I asked for help several times and I didn't get it. I wished I had. I wished I'd still be down in the Rutland Regional because this would have never happened. And I'm sorry.
I killed nobody, no. Okay. Well, I ain't killed a soul, Colorado. You've been reading too many books that can go through your head all the time. You said you killed some people. Not in Colorado. I've never killed nobody in Colorado.
Toole and the court watched a videotape from 1984 when he told authorities he did commit the crime. But today he said his confession was just a mind game, and he got details of the crime from an investigator.
What I did with him, I pulled all the pictures from it, all the information from it. Mr. Brown? We didn't have no sense of what I was doing. Why should I tell them the truth? If I tell them the truth, they say you're a liar. If I don't tell them the truth, they still say you're a liar. No, I don't give a what you say no more. Just take it gently, which way you can get it. Well, I could stand up for myself. Because I had you thought I could slap your teeth out, couldn't I? Slut.
A Lansing man is sentenced to between 70 and 100 years in prison for the November of 2022 murder of a Kalamazoo man. A judge today ordering 29-year-old Damian Lang to spend decades behind bars for the second-degree murder of 21-year-old Bryce Salter.
I can honestly say I hate you for taking him away from me.
Bryce Salter's sister in tears while reading a letter to Damian Lang, the man convicted of murdering her brother. Lang was smiling to our camera.
As far as count 1, murder in the second degree, as a fourth habitual offender, it is the sentence of this court that you serve a minimum 70 years to a maximum of 100. Thank you.
Salter was shot and killed at a strip mall near Western Michigan University's campus on November 11th, 2022.
Go cry about your snacks you don't get. Hey, I never cry.
News out of Yolo County to report right now. The DA now agrees that the man charged in stabbing 3 people in Davis, 2 of whom who died, is not competent to stand trial. Carlos Dominguez was set to be back in court on Monday to continue his competency hearing.
Carlos Dominguez is facing 2 charges of murder and 1 count of attempted murder. His criminal trial will pick up right where it left off last year, and that'll start next month after delays, all because of his competency.
You agree to that? Yes. Okay.
That's all Carlos Dominguez said in his first court appearance since he was certified mentally competent to stand trial. a change in appearance from last summer.
I want to say I'm guilty.
This side-by-side comparison
The court will confirm the order for involuntary medication.
was typical in treating what's most likely schizophrenia.
Therefore, this panel finds that the death penalty is appropriate, should be, and is hereby given for each of the 4 murders by the defendant. It is therefore the sentence of this court as follows. At case CR 13-2768, count 1, murder in the first degree, a class 1 felony, death. Count 2, use of a deadly weapon, firearm to commit a felony, a class 1C felony, 45 to 50 years to run consecutive to all murder convictions at counts 1, 4, 7, and 10. Count 3, possession of a deadly weapon by a prohibited person, class 1D felony, 45 to 50 years to run consecutive to all murder convictions at counts 1, 4, 7, and 10, and count 2.
Anthony Palma creeped into Shannon's house, kidnapped Kirsten, murdered her, disposed of her body, then lived 2 doors down for many, many years without a conscience. You know, we were shocked, we were thrilled, and also heartbroken. And we're heartbroken by the fact that we may never know where Kirsten's been buried or what happened to her body.
Clabe says he's been in contact with Kirsten's mother, Shannon. He says she's still very shaken up, trying to process everything that's happened.
I can't imagine losing your child the way that she lost Kirsten, and then to find out the murderer, who did receive justice through our court system, has now been murdered himself, and we still haven't found her body. So, you know, my heart goes out to that family and to everybody involved in the case, because there is no closure. It's still wide open for us.
Why did you take the decision to pile the bodies on top of each other in a freezer?
What do you mean?
Why did you do that?
Well, I only had one deep freezer. When you take the decision to pile the bodies on top of each other, where was she gonna go?
How did you conceivably sleep at night?
I slept well. Of course, at first I cried. It was up because I had to let go of all of that.
I'm doing my best, Michelle, to listen to what you're saying. However, I need to know that you also accept that you had a number of other options open to you, other than the extreme violence with which you decided to act.
What do you mean accept it?
You had a number of other options.
There were no other options. I'm not playing crazy. I wasn't in depression. None of that. It's no excuse for rape, period. After I killed Sonia, do you really think I was about to turn myself in because of her? Hell no. No. No.
And you feel no remorse for that?
I would kill him again.
Nobody deserves to die. Nobody deserves to be executed the way that he executed Steven Serna.
Serna was shot to death in a drainage ditch known as Hell's Gate 3 years ago. He was lured there by 22-year-old Robert Martinez, who promised him he would make him some drug money.
This was not an accidental or a reckless shooting. It was an execution.
An execution, she said, in retaliation for the murder of one of Martinez's friends. Martinez claimed that a member of Serna's family was involved in that murder. The state's key witness was Martinez's uncle, Larry Isaac. He testified that his nephew admitted to him that he killed Serna. Isaac testified for the state in exchange for a reduction in prison time in a kidnapping case pending against him. McRae suggested that because of that deal, Isaac's testimony was not credible. It was, prosecutors countered, as they asked for a life sentence.
How long ago did you find this child? It's about an hour and a half. I was waiting. I called my lawyer first thing to ask, what's the next thing I could do. And they said, wait till they're here to call, the police and get that going. Basically, it got to the point where I was waiting so long, I just kind of went ahead and did it anyway. And they're almost here. So I was waiting on legal counsel. So you found the child an hour and a half ago? Yeah. And called your lawyer first, correct? Yeah. Okay. Is there any other children in the home right now? Yeah. Because I don't know if I'm supposed to call the police or not. I have no idea what to do. Okay. We will send someone out and we're going to investigate. When was the last time you had contact with a child? Last night, about yesterday afternoon, about 3 p.m. She goes to bed, and that was that.
Okay, so you put her to bed yesterday at 3 p.m.
Yeah, and then this morning at like 10 something, we finally went in to check on her. Like, okay, it's been way too long, so She goes long all the time normally, so.
So you're saying it's normal for your children to sleep from around 3 p.m. till 10 a.m.?
Usually around 9:30, yeah. So.
They sleep from 3 p.m. to, I'm just telling you a couple things here.
Sure.
What time do they usually have dinner?
Oh, well, this is my infant. They're not all, they don't all have a schedule, but she basically eats and, she's off for a half hour after that, so she goes down for bed.
Okay. And how old are the other children?
4 and 2.
There's 2 other children?
Yeah.
And they're at home right now, right?
Yeah.
And you said when you found her, she was already believed to be deceased, right?
Yeah.
And that's when you consulted with a lawyer?
Yeah.
Do you believe she was beyond help already?
Oh, yeah. She was dead at the door now.
Police say a Tinley Park man admitted he killed his wife and 3 daughters and even told them why.
Mahar Kessam is being held tonight without bail, accused of murdering his wife and 3 adult daughters in cold blood. The result of what prosecutors say was a heated argument over respect and money.
The defendant stated, quote, "They're all gone."
They're the chilling words 63-year-old Mahar Kessam told responding officers who arrived at his family's Tinley Park home after he called 911, telling a dispatcher that his wife, 53-year-old Mahida Kessam, had been shot.
When police asked where everyone was at, the defendant pointed in the direction of the basement.
Police would find the bodies of his wife Mahida, his 25-year-old twin daughters Halima and Zahia, and 24-year-old daughter Hanan. Kessam appeared to be disgruntled over how he was treated inside the home.
The defendant was recorded volunteering things that, quote, "he treats me like a dog."
The man accused of Fresno's first murder of 2024 appeared before a county judge on Friday, 1 week after prosecutors say he stabbed his mother's boyfriend to death at an apartment they all shared near White and Jackson Avenues. Well, we can show you his mugshot, the judge told that blur Aaron Brown's face in court. The 32-year-old was flanked by 2 deputies just 1 day after the sheriff's office said he refused to leave his cell for his first scheduled hearing. Brown finally appeared. His attorney said she had doubts about his mental health.
At this time, based on my conversations with my client yesterday, I'm going to declare doubt.
Fresno police revealed a possible motive for the attack after arresting Brown on Sunday. They say he was upset over an argument between his mother and Bishop. Even if doctors say Brown can stand trial for murder, it doesn't mean he was of sound mind at the time of the homicide.
Aaron Brown is due back in court on February 23rd.
There is no place for you or your ignorant, hateful, and evil ideologies in a civilized society. There can be no mercy for you, no understanding, no second chances. The damage you have caused is too great, and the people you have hurt are too valuable to this community. You will never see the light of day as a free man ever again. It is the judgment of this court for your conviction under the first count of the indictment, a domestic act of terrorism motivated by hate in the first degree, an A1 felony, that you be sentenced to life imprisonment without parole.
Berkowitz agreed to go through each shooting, saying which ones he did and which ones he didn't, including Carl Denard.
Carl Denaro, Rosemary Keenan in Queens. That wasn't you. Were any of the 44 shootings done by females?
Yes.
Would that have been 1 shooting or 2? One, I know possibly two. I know that Carl's was definitely a woman.
Berkowitz refused to name any living co-conspirators for fear of reprisals against his family. But De Niro may have an idea of who she is.
All indications point to a female who was in the cult. We can actually place her within 2 blocks of the shooting, and she's still alive.
Who do you think shot her?
I'd rather not say.
Several years later, on 2 different occasions, investigative reporter Maury Terry interviewed David Berkowitz in prison for a documentary series. In these rarely seen meetings, Berkowitz tells Terry that he was not the only shooter.
Now, there were a series of 8 attacks known as the Son of Sam Killings.
Yeah.
Did you do all of them?
I was at all of them. I was at, more or less at all of them, scouting the areas and reporting back on likely targets and things, and I did not pull the trigger at every single one of them. And I believe the police do know that.
Berkowitz claimed his accomplices were fellow members of the 22 Disciples of Hell's Satanic Cult, a group he joined when he was 22. And the killings were sacrifices to their satanic gods.
Philadelphia prosecutors say the newly released police body camera videos show the fatal encounter happened within seconds of officers pulling up to Eddie Irizarry's car. Officer Mark Dial now faces murder and other charges for allegedly shooting to death the 27-year-old man. Dial turned himself in. Prosecutors say the body camera video of the August 14th incident contradicts the original police account, which said Irizarry was driving erratically, got out of his car, and lunged at the officers with a knife. Police later changed the details of that account. This video from a security camera, obtained and released by lawyers for Irizarry's family, also appeared to show Dial quickly exiting the vehicle and opening fire. His family said they wanted every frame of video released, some too graphic to show here, to prove police gunned down an innocent man.
I'm pleading not guilty to the charges of premeditated murder.
Ronnie O'Neill III is on trial for killing his girlfriend and their daughter in 2018, and he's chosen to defend himself in a Florida courtroom.
And the evidence is going to show that law enforcement tampered with evidence to meet their such high burden of proof.
Prosecutors say O'Neill shot his girlfriend Kenyatta Barron while their daughter watched. He then returned to his home and turned on his 9-year-old special needs daughter, killing her with a hatchet.
The evidence is going to show I love my children. And the evidence is going to prove to you that this whole entire case has been tampered with.
Tonight, the 19-year-old accused of murdering his teenage roommates is locked up in jail, and a judge is not letting him out. When Damon Kemp was wheeled into the courtroom this morning for his bond hearing, he started screaming,
God! 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 God!
Folks in the gallery, you need to hold it down.
God!
Mr. Kemp?
God!
Damon Kemp. My name is Judge Orfinger. I'm going to conduct your first hearing.
God!
I've reviewed your arrest warrant. Determine whether there's probable cause.
The man who murdered and dismembered Ashley Young will spend the rest of his life in prison. Jared Chance was sentenced today in a Kent County courtroom.
I cry 7 days a week. 7!
Ashley's mother, Christine Young, said she was relieved with the sentence Chance was given, but it still doesn't give her full closure because she doesn't know exactly what happened to her daughter or where the rest of her remains are. Now, the other aspect of this is that Chance's parents are both charged in connection to Ashley Young's murder, and their trial has been pushed to January of 2020 at this point. And Christine Young says she cannot begin grieving until their trial is over.
The parents of her killer were sentenced for their roles in the crime. James Chance will spend a month in jail and a year on house arrest for helping to move Young's body parts. His wife, Barbara, will spend 45 days in jail for lying to police and helping to move body parts.
Less than a year behind bars for both James, who's a former police officer, and his wife, Barbara Chance.
Kent died in Bundy's apartment, but he would never reveal details of her death.
I was just driving and in the dark, late at night, and not very conscious of much of anything else. And I can kind of remember, I'm trying to remember the number of little turns this road made.
In his mind, Bundy saw the Volkswagen pass the town of Fairview and head into the mountains.
Several miles. Well, this should help. There seemed to be, just in the outskirts of this town, iron barrier. It's a gate that's swung across the roadway. Looked like it closed off that road for some reason. How deep was the grave? Approximately 3 feet. 2 to 3 feet deep. Did her clothes remain with her? No.
It took a jury of 10 women and 2 men 3 hours today to decide that Jared Chance murdered and dismembered Ashley Young.
But it was a case hampered by the fact that some of the 31-year-old victim's remains appear that they'll never be found, making determining how she died impossible.
But after a week of gruesome testimony that often had the group weeping, the words they wanted to hear came around 3 p.m. today.
Guilty of second-degree murder.
But this was not a foregone conclusion. Assistant Kent County Prosecutor Lawrence Beauvais decided to go with second-degree murder as the main charge against Chance, in addition to the dismemberment and concealing of death charges. He asked the jury not to allow the fact that Chance discarded the head, hands, and feet of Ashley to allow him to get off.
Then all you need to do, folks, is kill someone, hide the one part that shows the cause of death, and you get away. Take him to prison, please.
16-year-old Emma Walker was an honor student and cheerleader on her championship-winning high school squad. She dated Riley Gall, a wide receiver on the Maryville College football team in Tennessee. But days after she ended their 2-year relationship, she was found shot to death in bed. Riley Gall fled the scene. That night, he posted this on social media, living every day through Emma. I love you, beautiful, and I know you're in a better place now. My beautiful Emma, rest easy now, sweetheart. Right away, police suspected Riley and persuaded a close friend to secretly record him talking about Emma's death.
They don't of anything because if they did, I would be in jail right now.
He even claimed Emma took her own life.
She killed herself because of me and her parents, or she just killed herself because of her parents. But she didn't kill herself. She did. What are you converting? Guilty.
He was found guilty of first-degree murder.
Emma's still gone.
You mentioned about the rush, and that makes a lot of sense. But I can picture the one part of the rush could be the sense of power over other people.
They say a woman being raped is all about power. True?
Sometimes, a lot of times.
But I think it's more about sex. I did it for the rush. I didn't do it for the sex. Didn't do it for the power. Didn't do it for the motive. It's a sensation. Tying that scarf around your neck and just watching your eyes. It's a sensation seeing that skin pull apart. Yeah. It's sensation sticking that knife in and just pulling and knowing it's sharp enough just go all the way up. Yeah. It's not the person. It's about the sensation of what you're into.
Mr. Landon has a history of abusing women. He also, in 2019, had a previous conviction for assaulting a woman in North Carolina, and in that case, there were allegations of strangulation.
In court today, prosecutors said Landon was clearly methodical and calculating about the murder of Madame Miriam Silla, going to extraordinary lengths to cover up the crime by dismembering her and dumping her torso in a pond near Joint Base Andrews over a 2-day period after Silla's disappearance from a Greenbelt park on July 28th. Shortly after that, August 1st, he attacked another woman in Greenbelt, prosecutors say, this time his ex-girlfriend and the mother of his 2-year-old daughter. He was arrested that day for violating a restraining order and held without bail. At the time, investigators had no idea Landon would become a suspect in the Silla murder. A judge ordered Landon to remain in jail without bail.
Is there a place for mercy the way the law is written today?
In Texas, I don't think so. I don't think so. And hopefully that will change.
Should there be?
There should be, yes, because God said He desires mercy over sacrifice or over the law. And there should always be a place for mercy. What you're going to do is you're going to cut down on the recidivism rate. If you want to talk about crime, cutting down on crime, you'll cut down on the recidivism rate. You will make your society a safer place, because if God is literally living in somebody and their life is governed by his law, by His love and His morals, when they walk out of here, they're not going to be a threat to our society. They're going to be a very valuable, contributing member to our society. God's given mercy. I mean, He's given it so abundantly. And if He brings me home February 3rd, it's because in His wisdom and His sovereignty, He knew that through that, something greater is going to be accomplished.
Velma Barfield was convicted and sentenced to die in 1978 for the poisoning death of her boyfriend. She also admitted poisoning 3 other people, including her mother. She now waits in virtual isolation in a cell just across from the execution chamber.
Total, isolation from everybody that I had been with for almost 6 years. The first week I was here was the worst week that I have spent.
Her attorney would not allow her to say whether she knew what she was doing when she committed her crimes.
Living in prison every day is a struggle, even at its best.
Now, drug-free, a repentant Barfield says she regrets the pain she has caused others.
I'm sorry for the hurt that I've caused so many people. Today, if it were possible, I wish that I could take every bit of hurt on myself.
In docket 980-8-15, count 1, which is the murder of Julie Pazzarano. The sentence will be 20 years to life to serve. Count 2, the murder of Rhonda Herring. Sentence will be 20 years to life to serve. On count 3, the murder of Regina Herring. The sentence will be 20 years life to serve. Those will all run concurrently with each other. In docket 925-8-15, the murder of Lara Sobel. Sentence is life without parole. Sorry, that'll end this proceeding.
21-year-old Tyrese Haspel ignored questions from reporters Friday as he was walked out of the 7th Precinct in handcuffs. Haspel is charged with the gruesome murder of 33-year-old tech CEO Fahim Saleh. Police say Monday afternoon, Haspel and Saleh rode the elevator up together at the victim's luxury condo building on East Houston Street. The suspect dressed in a black suit with his face covered, seemingly unrecognized by the victim. When the elevator opened directly to Saleh's apartment, police believe Haspel tased and then stabbed his boss in the torso and neck. Haspel allegedly returned the next day to dispose of the victim's body, but was interrupted by the victim's cousin, possibly buzzing up from the lobby.
His dismembered body in the living room of his apartment with his head, arms, and legs amputated.
An electric saw was near the remains. Sources tell us police have surveillance video that shows the suspect sneaking out of the building as the victim's cousin was coming up the elevator. Friday morning, Haspel was arrested about a mile away in NoHo.
Sheriff Jim Jenkins remembers the case well. He and another deputy were called to Spring Hill and Canal Roads in response to a stabbing. Once there, they found a man in his underwear, bound at the wrists and ankles, a stab wound in his chest. Larry Eiler showed up at the scene moments later. Eyler explained that he and the man were playing out one of Eyler's sexual fantasies. Eyler was armed with a 10-inch Bowie knife during the encounter.
I believe his words were that he forgot he had a knife in his hand and he pushed this boy, and when he pushed him, he stabbed him.
The man never pressed charges against Eyler. Jenkins says he was too embarrassed. If Eyler had only sought help 16 years ago, or if his victim had only pressed charges.
Sure. Maybe lots of murders could have been prevented. I don't know. It's just very tragic story all the way around.
I don't know the details of the case. You really just want to talk with your attorney?
The man accused of abusing a 4-year-old boy, a boy who died, broke down as he was charged with murder.
Giovanni Mejias allegedly died at the hands of his mother's boyfriend from blunt force trauma to his abdomen. The medical examiner ruled it wasn't an accident. The suspect has been a father since the age of 15, and this is not the first accusation of abuse against him.
So the first count is called felony murder, life without parole.
The 25-year-old suspect broke down when the charges against him were outlined by a judge today.
They're alleging you murdered one Giovanni Mejias. It is called felony murder. It is a felony.
His adult record includes drugs and gun charges, but he has a juvenile record that goes back 13 years before he even became a teenager. He also has charges of car theft, shoplifting, assault with a weapon, receiving and concealing stolen goods.
Rose was led from Marion County Jail. She gave no indication that she would plead no contest to 3 murder charges, instead talking about dropping her public defenders and hiring private attorney Steve Glazer. The nation's first known serial killer pleaded no contest to killing Dick Humphreys and Troy Burris in Marion County, David Spears in Citrus County. Legally, the no contest plea is viewed as a guilty plea, and because there is no plea agreement, Wuornos still faces the death penalty in each case.
I have made peace with my Lord, and I have asked forgiveness. I am sorry that my acts of self-defense ended up in court like this, but I take full responsibility for my actions. It was them or me. I am sorry for all the pain that my actions have caused. I am prepared to die if you say it is necessary.
A murder arrest, a man facing a judge accused of shooting his wife and then butchering her body.
78-year-old William Lowe of Delray Beach is now charged with the brutal murder of his wife. Her body found dismembered, stuffed inside multiple suitcases dumped in the Intracoastal. These were found back in July by multiple people in the area.
And halfway down the seawall is a brown suitcase covered in like 100 flies, and it stunk so bad. I just saw what looked like white flesh.
When they asked Lowe where his wife was, he said she was in Brazil. Police also checked a storage unit under Lowe's name, where they located a chainsaw similar to this one, the blade covered with human remains. Lowe was arrested. The medical examiner saying his wife's cause of death was a single gunshot to the head. Lowe is being charged with first-degree murder and dismemberment of a human body.
I didn't mean to kill Austin. Actually, I really didn't. I really think I did that. I didn't mean to hurt him.
Dylan Shoemaker walked into a state Supreme courtroom pleading his case, telling his victim's mother and the court he's remorseful for what he did. Shoemaker was sentenced Friday for beating 23-month-old Austin Smith last March. Before the sentence was handed down, Shoemaker and his defense attorney fought for the minimum sentence, 15 years to life.
I can't take back what was done. I wish I could. I would give my life for Austin. I loved him a lot.
Austin Smith was completely defenseless. That's a given. But there were other dynamics at work there, including my client's inability to either control his anger or frustration. Based on his short life now, what is to say he won't do this again?
Afterwards, Shoemaker was sentenced to 25 years to life behind bars.
BTK seemed uncatchable. Everyone wondered who he was, where he was, until just a few months ago, when a most unlikely man who'd lived among them all along, Dennis Rader, was arrested.
I am BTK. Yeah. I'm the guy they're after, 100%.
16-year-old Joshua Coleman pleaded guilty to murder and was sentenced to life in prison. The teen shot Deasia Green in the back of the head in an alley. Coleman was stone-faced as Green's mother asked him why he killed her daughter.
Why would Joshua do this to her? She didn't deserve it. She was a social butterfly. She didn't deserve it.
Last year, Toledo police found the 15-year-old girl dead in an alley in the 1300 block of Page. Judge Michael Goulding asked Coleman if he wanted to make a statement.
You'd like to tell the court why you did it?
Coleman is one of many young people who have been certified to stand trial as an adult for killing someone.
Well, they finally starting to show these youth that you can be charged as an adult and you can do grown people time. So at any point in time, you got to think twice.
Police say Zinn sent 3 others to find a woman to star in a pornographic video. Daniels drove this green Mustang from the grocery store to her boyfriend's house when the men kidnapped her, raped her, took her to the Jemez Mountains, and killed her. The case shocked the city. The judge gave Zinn a life sentence.
The sorrow of the Daniels family blends with the sense of loss and rage felt by a community now more watchful, less trusting, and noticeably closer to that cold impersonal fear too often a part of living in a big city.
Officials say 74-year-old Zinn died last week in the Los Lunas prison, but Faye says the memory of Daniels and her notorious murder lives on.